If you guys want your pet, your dog, to have more energy, to have more vitality, to have a better appetite, to have better bowel movements, to potentially live longer, and to potentially be cancer and disease free, consider getting them the raw dog food put forth by our friends over at Barf World. Barf World is an awesome product because it contains the perfect acid alkaline balance needed for your dogs to develop and grow strong tissues and bones. And that is, it has the muscle meat, but it also has organ meat and the bone of the animal. So it's got a perfect acid alkaline balance. Your dog will absolutely love this stuff. So if you love your animals, try giving them some Barf World raw dog food like we give to our dogs. They absolutely love it and they thrive on this diet. We're also brought to you by the Chili Pad, which is a really great pad that you can put on your bed. And the pad fills tiny little tubules of water that go all the way down to 55 degrees. So essentially what it does is it allows you to sleep cold. And studies have shown that the ideal temperature of your bed is between 60 and 67 degrees every single night. And anything above that or below that, you can start to have sleep problems. So the Chili Pad is an amazing way to help you sleep nice and cold so that you can get that deep, restful REM sleep that we're all craving. So if you want to learn more about the Chili Pad and how it can help you sleep or the raw dog food, check out this show page, which is extremehealthradio.com/541. Alrighty, thank you so much everybody for joining us on a happy Monday morning. Hope you guys are having a great day whenever you're listening to this. Appreciate you guys tuning in. We're going to be talking with Bryant Myers today. He's been on the show a couple other times. This show is going to be episode 541, so if you guys want to check out the show notes or any of the links that we talk about, it is extremehealthradio.com/541. I will do my best to take as many notes as possible during the show so that you don't have to, so that you can keep exercising or driving and you don't have to write things down. That's kind of the benefit of having show notes. So I will put those all at extremehealthradio.com/541. The other shows that we've done with him are episode 473 and 378. And Bryant Myers is a best-selling author. He's a leading expert in the field of energy medicine and PEMF therapy. He's a former TV show host and former physics and math professor at Central Michigan. And for 18 years, he's been researching, testing, tried, and investigated over $500,000 worth of energy medicine products, studying with many of the world's experts. And he's personally been helping so many people, and especially with PEMF therapy, which is what we're going to be talking about today. And we have talked to Marcus Freudenman, who's also a friend of our shows. And it's interesting because we have so many differing opinions, and we love Marcus and we love Bryant, and we're here in the middle with you, the listener. So this is going to be a fun show. We're going to be covering some of the sort of the objections that Marcus says, and we'll be doing it all in good faith and kindly and cordially. But we're going to be talking about some of the things that he has said about PEMF. And I'm with you. I am in the middle of this. I don't have a science background. I don't have a physics background. So this is going to be really interesting to hear Bryant's, not rebuttal. It's not like a debate or anything, but we're just going to be talking about PEMF and the research that Bryant has been doing over the years so that we can kind of get a more general overall picture of what's going on. And then you get to play doctor, and you as the listener get to make up your own mind, because the way I see it is that if you're torn, why not get both devices? Or if someone says, if someone says to eat paleo and someone says to eat vegan, why not split the difference every now and then and, do a little bit of both, and then you sort of hedge your bets there a little bit. So let me turn Bryant's microphone up here really quickly. Bryant, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can, Justin.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, my friend.
Oh, my pleasure. I always love it when we talk and share great ideas. And yeah, this is my most passionate, thing that I'm most passionate about is pulse magnetic field therapy.
Yeah, I'm excited too, because I'm sure you heard the little intro there. I'm not sure if the audio was a little too high, but Yeah, it's sometimes as a listener and as a radio show host too, we talk to so many different experts and different people that are just intensely study specific fields, and they have differing opinions. And so as a listener or as a radio show host, you're kind of like, I don't know what to think. I like this guy, but I like that guy better. I like them both the same. They seem like they're good guys. What do you do,
Yeah, well, you interview them both and you help people make an informed decision.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's kind of like homeopathic and allopathic medicine. I mean, a lot of people choose homeopathic, a lot of people choose allopathic, or you could say homeopathic or kind of natural healing.
Uh-huh.
But a lot of people go to their doctors, so, we've got a great emergency care system and, for emergency situations. But, lifestyle diseases, in my opinion, are best handled through just lifestyle changes and natural healing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's my perspective on PEMF is kind of similar to that, where kind of for daily use, for lifestyle changes to use every day, I think a low-intensity, low-frequency system is the way to go for home use.
Mm-hmm.
But, for under the supervision of a practitioner, high-intensity systems for like emergency care or acute situations, might be helpful symptomatically.
So for people that are unfamiliar with PEMF, let's just do a quick little intro to that. What is PEMF and what are we talking about here?
Yeah, pulsed electromagnetic field therapy is kind of it's nothing new. It's been around since the 80s. Actually, before that, even George Pappas. Actually, you could take it back to Tesla even, and Kellogg. They had PEMF devices of sorts.
Mm-hmm.
Although they were more kind of electric field, electric current type of devices. But yeah, I like to just the simple kind of explanation I like to use is PEMF is sort of like a whole body battery recharger, and you have around 37 trillion cells in your body, and those cells when you lay on a PEMF mat get charged to their healthy 70 to 90 millivolt potential. It's like a fully charged battery,
mm-hmm.
and interestingly, a lot of smartphones now, they have these little, you can recharge them on a wireless pad, right? And guess what that wireless pad is? It's PEMF. It's a pulsing magnetic field that charges up the batteries.
Wow.
So actually, PEMF is used on smartphones too. And it's a different frequency. It's not going to be the same frequency that you're going to want for your body, but the premise is similar. The cells, interestingly, we use the word cell for our human cells, but, 2 or more cells equals a battery, like a wet cell, dry cell battery.
Oh, okay.
And, fundamentally, health is the quality of your health is dependent on the quality of the health of your cells.
Mm-hmm.
And the quality of the health of your cells is really dependent on the voltage of the cells, as Dr. Otto Warburg discovered some time ago.
Mm-hmm.
And that energy stored in the inside of the cell membrane and also stored in ATP, they're kind of two energy sources for the cell, is really what Dr. Otto Warburg found was people that are in good health always had a high charge on their cells.
Mm-hmm.
People that were sick always had a low cellular voltage. I mean, there was no exceptions there.
Wow.
People with cancer tend to have the lowest voltage.
Now, what I've been learning too is in terms of voltage, right? There's a doc, I forget what his name is, Dr. Tennant, I think, and he talks about the same thing as healing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
he
healing is voltage.
Thing, yeah.
And so he mentions, right, that each of the cells, like different cells require different voltage. Is that correct?
Well, I mean, yes, the heart cells are going to be the most energetic.
Okay.
Most tissue cells, and it's going to vary. Like if you have a muscle cell and you're in activity, but just on average, most cells are operating around 70 millivolts. Okay. But the heart cells are at a whole nother level because the heart is the most energetic organ in your body. In fact, the heart field is a magnetic field that can be detected 15 feet away with sensitive squid magnetometers, which is a very sensitive magnetic field device.
Wow.
And that's 5,000 times stronger than the magnetic field of your brain.
Wow.
So heart math kind of, and I like how they say this, the heart field is sort of the basis for the holographic energy blueprint for the body's energy grid, energy systems, which includes the meridians, the chakras, and physically, the nerves and the connective tissue, as we know, is like a living matrix of energy and information.
Uh-huh.
And, the biophotons that are communicating between cell to cell. And so yeah, I mean, the magnetic field of the energy field of the heart is the strongest. So the heart cells, it makes sense that they have the highest voltage. And here's an interesting thing to ponder. Notice how you never hear about heart cancer.
We've talked about that. It's very fascinating, isn't it?
Isn't it fascinating? Yeah. I almost want to make that a title of a book. Why is there no heart cancer? I mean, there is, but it's usually on the outside. Like, it's a very rare form of cancer on the outside of the heart membrane, but it's very, very rare. And it's because even in a sick person, their heart cells have to maintain the highest voltage just for, the heart and the brain are kind of the primary organs of the body at all costs. Make sure that, are supplied with the nutrients. I mean, if everything else, you have to shut down. It's like we're going to get nutrients for the heart and the brain and oxygen.
Mm-hmm. So it's that voltage that we're talking about, right? That keeps that heart.
Healing is voltage. And Dr. Tennett's book is so appropriate. Healing is voltage. I mean, you just can't be sick if your cells are charged. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of things that go into charging the cells. But the interesting thing about PEMF is there are direct mechanisms where the pulse magnetic field will directly charge the TMP and the transmembrane potential. And that's just the voltage across the cell membrane. It's like it's a charge. There's a differentiation of charge. There's the sodium potassium pump. There ends up being a net positive charge on the outside of the cell and a net negative charge on the inside. And just like a battery, it's that charge separation that stores energy, right? Because positive and negative charges want to come together really quickly. I mean, it's a very strong force. So the cell membrane, the phospholipid cell membrane, separates those charges, and energy is stored. In fact, up to 50% of the cell's energy goes into the transmembrane potential, and it's very, very important because when your cells are charged, that allows the cells to optimally absorb oxygen and nutrients and to get rid of toxins. Where if your cells are poorly charged, then that ability to take in nutrients and get rid of waste is diminished.
Yeah, and people have written entire books all about oxygen and how important it is to be oxygenated.
Exactly, and again, the oxygen, it's then taking it up another level from the cell to more of a tissue level. PEMF helps with oxygenation. It helps microcirculation. So when you enhance that capillary microcirculation, you allow oxygen and nutrients to get better diffused into the cells, and waste products to get better eliminated back, to the organ's elimination for removal. Mm-hmm. And so that energy, it's health is an energy game, but it's coherent energy. It's not just like if you get electrocuted, putting your finger in a socket, you get a lot of energy, but it's not coherent. It's not healthy. So coherent is harmonious energy that's kind of in resonance with the frequencies of the tissues and the cells and the organs.
So that's what this PEMF does. It pulses the electromagnetic field frequencies into the body in a way that's harmonious to the cells?
Yes, in a way that's harmonious to the cell. And, Siskin and Walker and many others, there's a really good chart. James Oshman's book on energy medicine, you may have come across that. Mm-hmm. But he's got a table 15.2 in his book, and it goes through the frequency resonances of different tissues and cells. And when I saw that, it's like, yes, it confirms what I've been saying, that the low frequencies are what mainly resonate with tissues and cells. And, there are some that get up to, 50, 60, 100 in this chart. But if you look at that chart closely, they're duplicates, meaning those tissues had resonances at lower frequencies as well. So the nice thing about the low-frequency systems and the low-intensity systems is you're using frequency resonance to gently stimulate and energize all the cells in your body. And the key is resonance, not intensity.
Okay.
And, the body's very, very coherent and very, very, it's a delicate interconnection of networks, of energy information networks through physical and more subtle energy. Mm-hmm. And it's so complex and so complicated, it's just mind-boggling. When you think about it, there's 37 trillion cells. Each cell has about 100 trillion atoms. If you count up all the atoms in your body, it's about 50,000 more atoms in your body than there are stars in the universe.
Wow.
I mean, in our entire universe. So we're talking about, some chemical reactions happen like 400, 500,000 times a second or more. There's some really fast. And so when you think about that amazing complexity, why would you want to mess with something as complex as the human body, except, there is something to be said for a homeopathic approach, because the body can get stuck.
Mm-hmm.
So just a very gentle nudge can help the body get unstuck and to get back into its ability to heal itself.
Now, tell me if you think if this is a good analogy, because, a lot of people ask, which one's better, and so better is such a loaded word, right? I mean, it depends what your goals are, depends your current state and level of health and all these types of things. And so as you're explaining that, I was just thinking, if someone were to do like a 30-day water fast, for example, that would have tremendous impact into their physiology, their cleansing, and all of these. We don't recommend doing that. If you're going to do that, go see a doctor if you want to do that. But that would have a tremendous cleansing effect on the body, right? But then there's also the idea of living a clean lifestyle and cleansing every single day, taking clays, taking zeolites, doing different, protocols to cleanse yourself every single day, maybe a coffee enema once a week. You can do things at a lower level that might have the same impact, but you're doing it on a low level every single day. And is that a good way to compare the two power levels of these IMRS or these PEMF devices, do you think?
I think that's a good way to look at it. I mean, the thing about low intensity, low frequency is, first of all, it's the safest. There's international agencies like the DIN and the ICNARP, and they set safety standards for electric fields, magnetic fields, and then they even have a time-varying magnetic field component to their charts. And that's PEMF. Time-varying magnetic fields are PEMF, changing and pulsating magnetic fields.
Mm-hmm.
And what they say is you really don't want to go above in a workplace, which is, somewhere where you're working 8 hours a day.
Okay.
You don't want to go above 5,000 microtesla if it's a low frequency, which that's why I recommend low frequency, because it's the most natural, it's the most in alignment with the body, the tissues, the brain state frequencies, the frequencies the cells resonate at, and even the frequencies we emit.
Mm-hmm.
But if you start to go up to higher frequency, then the safety standards go way down, and the ICNIRP says like 5 microtesla, which is very low. So it's not just it's not just intensity, it's also frequency, which, meaning higher frequencies are usually more harmful, lower frequencies are more safe. And again, this is by these international agencies that kind of like OSHA, kind of oversee like government or safety standards in a workplace.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you can get too much of these fields. Using the low intensity every day is the safest, because you're always within safety standards that are considered safe in a workplace, and you don't have to worry about the body kind of shutting down, because what happens if you use high intensity for a long period of time, the body sees that as an external threat, and it kind of clams up. It's sort of like a turtle withdrawing its head. It gets into fight or flight, and it kind of fights that. It sees it as an external stress, and that takes the body out of its ability to heal itself, even if you get temporarily symptomatic pain relief. And I'm not against symptomatic pain relief. Sometimes when people are in really bad pain, it's helpful to get some symptomatic pain relief.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a talk with one of the developers of these high-intensity systems, and he was convinced that high intensity was better for symptomatic pain relief, and I kind of consented to that, mm-hmm. even though we have, if you look at our YouTube channel, we've got, the IMRS has, over 80 video testimonies, and we have now hundreds of written, and most of them are pain relief related.
Mm-hmm.
But then he even told me, he says, you know what, and he kind of said this off the record, but, and I won't mention any names, mm-hmm. but he did say that, the low intensity might actually heal the body faster. And my hairs kind of stood on end, and like, that's the whole point. That's what I'm after. I'm after true healing.
Mm-hmm.
Symptomatic pain relief is good, and we found with low intensity systems that you can get very good symptomatic pain relief, but perhaps with high intensity you can get that a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go to a practitioner that is trained in using a high intensity system for a short period of time, like you said, the 30-day water fast,
mm-hmm.
You're not doing it like a year water fast or anything. For a short period of time. And I would even add to the water fast, I think you should be under a trained supervision of someone that's experienced in doing water fast.
Right.
So this goes hand in hand with what I tell people with high intensity. It's not that I'm totally against it. I just think the places for high intensities in the clinic under the guidance of a trained professional that's experienced in dealing with those really high voltages and those really high intensities.
So it could be, the high intensity could be good for, like you said, just acute issues. I think on...
Yeah, acute issues. And if you look at their testimonials, and I've really scanned YouTube for a lot of most of them are pain-related testimonials.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not that they don't have others. I'm just saying, you look at a big bulk of their promotions are for pain relief, where with the low-intensity systems, you look at the IMRS and even the Beamer, which is another very popular low-intensity system,
mm-hmm.
you see many more, at least in my research, I see a lot more healing stories of other really serious diseases with the low-intensity systems like the IMRS and the Beamer than I do with any of the high-intensity systems. If you really look through YouTube, Beamer's got playlists of like 100, the IMRS has got playlists of like 100 videos, everything from cancer to MS to fibromyalgia to Lyme disease, including pain relief and insomnia and some of those type of things, but some really serious things we've helped to turn around. And the reason it works so well is because, first of all, you can use it every day, and some of these things take some time to turn around.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't just necessarily happen overnight. But because you're using a very safe frequency and intensity, you can use it on a daily basis, and you don't get like habituation or acclimation. You don't get a cellular fatigue like you do with static magnetic mattress pads over time,
mm-hmm.
for example. And I noticed that firsthand myself when I got a really powerful static magnetic mattress pad. It's like I felt some benefit for a while, then it seemed to go away, then it seemed to be things were getting worse.
Mm.
I just had to stop using it.
Mm.
Because the body, that's too high of an intensity to be using day in and day out.
Now, in terms of, Brian, I wanted to ask you about the waveforms. I know we kind of touched on that a little bit at the beginning, but some people who have the high intensity will say that the low power PEMF devices have a continuous waveform, and then the higher ones have like a pulsed waveform. Is that correct?
Well, that's true with some low intensity. So some of the cheaper systems that are on the market, again, I don't really want to name names, but you can go to Amazon and see some devices that claim to be as good as Beamer and IMRS, but I've actually tested those. They do have simple repeating square waves or simple repeating signals, and that's not good. I agree. However, the QRS, the Beamer, and the IMRS use a very complex triple wave packet where you're getting not a continuous waveform at all. And again, if they're just kind of throwing all the low intensity systems into that camp, that's not correct. And I can prove that with an oscilloscope, on the Beamer, IMRS, or QRS, because it's a very complex waveform that actually is much more complex than the high intensity ringer devices. Because you hear the little click, click, click with those high intensity systems.
Right, I felt those too.
It's a very rhythmic blast of very high frequencies getting blasted out.
Mm-hmm.
And unless you have one of the really expensive, like pulse centers, for example, they do make a solid state unit now that's high intensity. But you're paying over $30,000 to get that. So most of the high intensity systems are still, the ringer devices are still using, the spark gap, the old, basically Nikola Tesla technology. It's nothing new at all.
Mm-hmm.
George Pappas with the Papimi was the first to use something like that. They have gotten better, and electronics are much better now. It's much more streamlined. But still, to me, that's a signal that your body will acclimate to a lot quicker than the very complex Beamer and IMRS and even QRS signals, which they have a lot of complexity. If you look at the pulse train, you see a triple wave packet, then there's a gap. And then another triple wave packet, a gap. And then every 2 minutes it switches polarity, meaning the current switches directions, which gives you further variation. Again, all three of those units do that.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that the IMRS does that no other system does that I really like is it's got a heart rate variability biofeedback that will use HRV, which is a measure of the health of your central nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
And we could do a whole show on heart rate variability sometime maybe, but that's a really fascinating topic, but it's a very good way to do biofeedback. And so the IMRS has an added level of variation where you're getting a different session every time. The intensities are changing, every minute based on your biofeedback. And so if anything, the high-intensity systems you're going to acclimate or habituate to that much more quickly than the high-end. I say high-end when I say Beamer, IMRS, QRS, because they've been around the longest when it comes to low intensity, low frequency. In fact, all three of them go back to the 90s. A lot of the other low intensity full body mat systems, or the high intensity ones, they're newer. They've come along more recently.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to be careful of the simple sine wave systems, because if you got a simple sine wave, you can't do more than just one frequency at a time. You just can't.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to get a complex sawtooth or a square wave, you got to use bundles of frequencies. It's called Fourier analysis,
Mm-hmm.
or Fourier transforms. You can make any signal with a combination of sines and cosines.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to add it in the right frequency and the right amplitudes to give the signal you want.
Mm-hmm.
So again, both the Beamer and the IMRS, they have very complex wave packets that include bundles of frequencies, bundles of amplitudes that, like a lock and key, are going to penetrate into your body and resonate with those tissues and cells that need that particular frequency.
Mm-hmm.
It's like an energetic multivitamin. You kind of get it. All the frequencies are in there.
Now, does the frequency go away when you get off the mat?
Well, when you get off the mat, the benefits don't. The benefits last most of the rest of the day or even longer. We've had.
Yeah.
I remember we had one lady that her knee pain went away and stayed away for 2 weeks. But energetically, the cells keep their charge. But we recommend using it twice a day for 8 minutes, because we find that it's kind of like the waiter going around and topping off your water, just keeping those cells topped off at a very high charge.
Okay.
So, but really all you need is twice a day for 8 minutes. And that's true with the Beamer, with the IMRS, and the QRS even.
Is it possible to do too much? Because I've been using mine more than that.
No, you can do it more. In fact, I tell people, if you really want to keep the cells maximally charged, you can do 8 minutes 4 times a day, and that's once for every... Oh, I forgot to mention, that's one more added level of variation that the IMRS has, which is the fundamental pulse train frequency changes 4 times a day, from 15 hertz down to 0.5 at night. So it's very in tune with the frequencies of your brain. And but if you do one session for each of those four organ clock settings,
Mm-hmm.
you get a different pulse train frequency each of those 4 times. So we tell people you can really maximize the full body mat with laying on the full body mat for 4 times a day for 8 minutes. Morning, noon, dinner time, and say night. That would be a good way to.
So when I originally plugged in the device and programmed it, that's why I had to put the time of day in there. Is that right? Because it.
Yes, that's why you have to put the time of day, because it'll automatically trigger the right frequency for the time of day. And when you think about it, it makes sense to have like an energizing beta frequency in the morning, like sort of like an energetic cup of coffee. I mean, you get up and you want to get moving, you want to get energized.
Uh-huh.
Where at nighttime, it makes sense to use a lower and slower frequency that's more theta delta. And again, you don't really get this. Even the Beamer and the QRS don't really get that right as far as the frequency. But the high intensity systems, you're getting blasted higher frequencies every session. Unfortunately, it's just the nature of the electronics that you're going to get kilohertz, megahertz frequencies. I mean, using those devices, even though that you can tune in that click, click, click. Okay, you can actually get that right to 7.83. So you can tune in the primary pulse of those high intensity systems,
mm-hmm.
and you can dial them down to lower frequencies. So I guess if you're using a high intensity system, that might be not a bad idea to try to tune it to the right frequency for the time of day. But just know that because of the nature of those devices, you're going to get a lot of high frequencies mixed in every blast. When you see your muscles twitch, you're getting that blast of energy, and it includes a lot of higher, in my opinion, electrosmog frequencies, which is one of the reasons I don't like the ones that are not solid state. And again, solid state is more of a digital. They have the more sophisticated high intensity now that have a digital solid state, and you can precisely, program in the frequencies and waveforms of those systems. But if you don't need such a high intensity, why would you want it? It's sort of like if you're just driving around town, why do you need to get a Lamborghini that's 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds? I mean,
mm-hmm.
if you're just driving around from one store to another, taking your kids to school, it's like you don't need that much. Because you don't need that much power, why spend $30,000 to get that much power when you can get the frequency resonance with the low intensity system?
Do we know that if the high intensity, because when I used it, it's kind of sexy because it feels good. You can actually feel it with the IMRS mat. You don't feel anything. It's very subtle. But with the higher intensity ones, I could actually feel it, and it was pulsating. Do we know that's doing anything that we don't know about that may be bad in the body? Or I'm just trying to figure out, because it was such high intensity. I was using it.
Yeah, it's again, what you're feeling is really not so much the magnetic field as it is by Faraday's law, a change in magnetic field induces an electrical current. Mm-hmm. You're feeling that very high intensity changing magnetic field producing those electrical currents. So what you're feeling is the electrical currents induced by Faraday's law from the really high fields that cause your muscles to twitch. Because the muscles are electric, right? You can get certain devices, little electrodes, you can get your muscles to twitch with little electrical things, right? You can. I remember back in the old days, they had those muscle building things, these electrodes you put on your muscles, and they start twitching, right?
Yeah, I remember that.
Supposedly they help you to build muscle.
Right.
But that's just, so just because your muscles twitch doesn't necessarily mean that it's ideal for healing and regeneration. Mm-hmm. But certainly, even high intensity systems, they're going to still help with microcirculation, with pain relief, and for short term. I mean, like I said, under a supervision of a practitioner, I think short term, maybe your analogy with the fasting might be appropriate. Mm-hmm. If you kind of add to that analogy that you should probably go to Hippocrates or some place like that that's trained in doing supervised fasts, right? Mm-hmm. And not just doing it on your own if you've never done it before.
Right.
Because if you do a water fast for 30 days and your elimination channels aren't open or not clear, you can go through some rough patches because your body's going to get a serious detox. And if you got blood sugar issues, you could get into some trouble doing a 30-day water fast on your own, unsupervised.
Yeah, for me, it's one of the things that a lot of our listeners are super, super into the extreme health and doing things and testing, and so am I. I'm always testing on myself, always trying new things and new protocols and things like that. But I've never really been one for really, really intense protocols or anything like that. If I was dealing with some sort of chronic degenerative disease like cancer or something like that, I would do whatever it takes. But I'm much more of a fan myself of just doing easy to do daily cleanses, like drinking lots of water, doing a sauna, doing a rebounder, doing the IMRS, and taking zeolite and clay. And, it's really easy to do these things. I do intermittent fasting, and, it's easy to do these things. I don't really want to go do like a 30-day water fast or even a 3-day fast, not until I feel called to do so. And I don't know. To me, like the IMRS seems like it fits right in with that kind of thinking,
Yeah, again, it's something you could use in the comfort of your home on a daily basis, and you're not going to get it'll always keep your body. Again, there's enough variation in the signal. It's like much more so than any other system I've found. And one other thing I really wanted to mention about the heart rate variability that relates to the high intensity. This is something that I really noticed working with a lot of people. Is that what happens when even with our system going to level 400, which is only 70 microtesla, the person's heart rate variability. Sometimes when you raise the intensity, you can see their heart rate variability go down, which is not a good thing. So even within the realm of the lower intensities, sometimes level 200, 400, even on a low intensity mat, lowers the person's heart rate variability. So my guess is, and I kind of know why it's happening, and that might not happen with a professional athlete who, by the way, these high-intensity systems, I think that is a good maybe use of high intensities with pro athletes because their bodies can handle a lot more energy. Mm-hmm. But a lot of people using those high intensities lowers their heart rate variability. Why? Because it puts their body like into fight or flight, and that tends to shut down the heart rate variability is kind of a measure of this flexibility of your central nervous system to and part of that is when you need to go into healing, the parasympathetic, you can get into that healing mode. So keeping your body too sympathetic will keep you out of that deep healing. The parasympathetic, you can call it the rest, digest, and repair system. Mm-hmm. And that comes from sleep, meditation. After you eat, you're typically more parasympathetic. And, but the variability, for the body to be able to go from stress to parasympathetic, that flexibility of the central nervous system, is a measure of good health of the body. In fact, it's one of the most important parameters of good health. Right up there with cholesterol and blood pressure and all those other things, because it tells you how well a person can handle and adapt to stress. How well they can perform. Sometimes the stress is just performing on the stage, giving a presentation, right? You perform at your best.
Mm-hmm.
But then, if you have a good heart rate variability, when you get home and want to relax, you can easily go back into that relaxation mode. You see, so that flexibility is kind of like a pendulum where the more heart rate the better your heart rate variability, the better the flexibility of your central nervous system to sort of kind of work with those cycles of the day between activity and rest.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, the low-intensity systems really enhance that ability of the body to naturally heal and repair itself. Because I always tell people, the IMRS is not healing anything. All the IMRS does is it stimulates the body's ability to heal itself.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what I love about homeopathy, because homeopathy looks upon symptoms not as something to be suppressed, but as something to be enhanced, because the symptoms are the energetic fingerprints of the healing response of the body.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost diametric to allopathic approaches.
Oh, completely. Mm-hmm.
But the standard American wants symptomatic relief. So, there is a place for high intensity systems. Sometimes people just want the pain to be shut off, and that's just what they want. Even though, like I said, the low intensity systems, if you look at most of our testimonials, they're pain relief testimonials.
Mm-hmm.
But that's usually what I'll concede with people, that high intensity systems are a little better at the numbing the pain,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. And with the IMRS, I don't think I played too much with the HRV on that yet, and that's I think that's is that an add-on, or does that come with it?
Yeah, that's an add-on. I didn't.
Right.
You don't have that with your system yet. Well, I'll definitely get you one. So we could. Because actually, I'd love to do a show sometime on heart rate variability, just because it's such an important parameter of health, and it so beautifully shows how quantum coherence and the coherence of the body. How all the cells are talking and communicating with each other.
It's fascinating.
And see, the heart is the conductor of the orchestra.
Uh-huh.
And this is why I tell people with low intensity systems, you're working gently with the orchestra, with the conductor. You're not, because every orchestra will have like a woodwinds, a brass, percussion, keyboard, and string,
mm-hmm.
right? And it's really fascinating, the analogy between an orchestra and your body, because it's like the different organs of the body are different. Like one's woodwinds, you could say, is the heart, cardiovascular system. Brass, you could say central nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
So you can make the analogy, and interestingly, in an orchestra, there's a hierarchy, meaning there's a principal instrument in each group that kind of sets the beat. And this is so true with the body. There's like this, even the heart is the main, actually the heart and the brain, are kind of your main conductors, right?
Uh-huh.
And all the other organs are like these different parts, different aspects of the orchestra. And, what low-intensity PEMF does is it naturally will boost the communication. See, it's a lot of health is cell-to-cell communication. In fact, a good example of the opposite of no cell-to-cell communication is cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Because in a cancer cell, you get a rogue cell which is not communicating with the rest of your body at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's doing its own thing. It doesn't want to hear anything. It doesn't want to hear what your heart or your brain is saying. It just wants to live in its own world,
Yep.
and it just multiplies. And that's what can happen when you lose that cell-to-cell communication, which, by the way, comes from low cellular voltage.
Mm.
We didn't really get into this, how the cells can all communicate, but a part of the importance of the quantum coherence and the cohesion of the human body and the human energy field is the cell-to-cell communication. And the cells in your liver, of course, the liver cells are all very connected to the liver cell, other liver cells, but there's a more global communication within, the heart and the brain field to orchestrate everything, right? So it's many layers of hierarchy, or it's more of a whole. I like the word holarchy. Ken Wilber, I like he used that word holarchy in one of his books.
Yeah, Ken Wilber's great.
And it's a better, because it's a holistic. It's not like a dominator hierarchy where there's something that, it's like everything's interconnected, and it's, but in a very holographic way. But using the low frequency, low intensity is just very gently working to improve the communication of the orchestra. And I also tell people it's sort of like PMF is kind of like the percussion session, too. It helps to enhance the percussion because the percussion section of an orchestra is what helps keeps the beat. It's like your circadian rhythms, right, in tune with nature and with the cycles of the day. And so when you use that PMF signal, it kind of sort of like is plucking all the cells to all resonate at the same time, and it gets them to all start communicating better. And so it has a powerful effect not just on energizing the cells, but also to helping with cell-to-cell communication. And we have some really great success with cancer. I mean, we can't make any medical claims, of course, but Paul Bando is a guy that's working with doctors in clinics in Pennsylvania, and he's had successful remissions with the IMRS on pancreatic cancer, multiple myeloma, liver cancer, breast cancer, lymphoma, melanoma, esophageal cancer, and bladder cancer. And I've seen a couple of those myself. He just happens to be working a little more with cancer.
How do you spell his name? Cancer. Paul Bando?
Yeah, Paul Bando. He's a distributor for the IMRS, but he works closely. And he did say, some of these patients are doing standard medical protocols as far as chemotherapy and so forth, but they really feel, and some of the doctors he works with as well, that are open-minded enough to use it, that the PMF really is a big part of the whole process of healing.
Interesting stuff about PEMF. I hope you guys are enjoying this show. My name is Justin Stellman, and we do this show, Extreme Health Radio, twice a week. So if you guys haven't listened to any of our other shows or want to subscribe to our other shows, feel free to do that. I want to give you guys just a quick heads up on the upcoming shows that we have. Next week, we're going to be talking with Dr. Jack Wolfson, and we'll be talking about cardiovascular health. He's the paleocardiologist, so we'll be talking about the paleo diet and how to keep your heart health healthy. And then we have Adam Bergstrom, and we'll be talking about body dowsing and cognitive shocks. I have no idea what cognitive shocks are, so that would be a really interesting show. Adam Bergstrom is one of our more fascinating guests, so make sure to check out his shows. Then we have Dr. Natasha Winters, and we'll be talking about her book called The Metabolic Approach to Cancer. So you may want to check out that show if you know anybody in your life that has cancer or is afraid of getting it or dealing with it in some capacity. So we'll be talking with her about her book, The Metabolic Approach to Cancer. And then also we have next week Rhea Carlson, and we'll be talking about bee venom therapy, the practice and utilization of all honeybee produced and gathered substances like royal jelly, honey, propolis, pollen, beeswax, bee venom. She does bee venom therapy. So if you guys have never heard of bee venom therapy, this is going to be a really interesting show with Rhea Carlson. So like I said, lots of cool stuff coming down the pipe for you guys. This is episode 541. If you guys want to subscribe to the show, feel free to do that. You can do that all over our website or on the podcast player that you're listening to the show on iTunes or Stitcher. And that would be a great way to keep up to date with all of our shows. You can also sign up to our newsletter, which is a great way to keep up. And you can do that by texting the word Get Healthy to 33444. Or you can go to extremehealthradio.com/subscribe. We'll send you some really great bonuses and ebooks and some really great tools and resources for you to take your health to the next level. So make sure to do that. And I just wanted to talk with you guys about the Relax Far Infrared Sauna. Right now, we are running a little bit of a summer sale on the sauna. So we rarely run sales, but we wanted to let you guys know about this. And if you guys are interested in the Relax Far Infrared Sauna, that's the sauna that's in our store. It's the one that we have and promote. I use it every single day for about 30 minutes, and you sweat like incredible amounts of sweat. And it uses far infrared light technology that penetrates deep into the bones. And so it's a great healing tool to remove toxins and heavy metals and fat-soluble poisons from your body through your skin, bypassing the normal organs like the liver and the gallbladder and the colon and all of that. So the sauna therapy has been around for thousands of years, and I highly recommend getting a Relax Far Infrared Sauna. So if you guys are interested, if you're listening to this in the future, the sauna sale will probably be over, but you can always contact me and see if it's still available. We cannot advertise this on the website, so we will let you know if you guys are interested in it, if the sauna is still available at the time that you email me. So let me know about that. We'll put a link to it at extremehealthradio.com/541. And I also wanted to tell you about this Bellicon rebounder that we have. I'm a big fan of this thing. I use it every single day. Now that we have a backyard, I take it outside and I'll put it on the grass, and I'll get on and off it, and I'll use it for about 30 minutes. So I do the sauna for 30 minutes a day, and the Bellicon rebounder. And the rebounding, for those that don't know, is probably one of the most unique and beneficial exercises that you can ever do, because what it does is it stimulates the movement and circulation of your lymphatic fluid, which, as you probably know, we have more lymphatic fluid in our body than we do blood. And the lymph system is where we store toxins and where we accumulate these poisons throughout our life. That's why when you go to the doctor, the doctor will typically feel for your lymph nodes around your neck, around your armpits, or in your groin. That's where the lymph nodes are. The nodes are, but the lymph system runs throughout the entire body. It's also great for building bone density, increasing circulation. It's a full body cellular exercise, so it produces endorphins. You feel amazing when you get off of it. And what's cool is that you can stimulate every single cell in your body. And unless I'm unaware, I don't know of any other exercise that stimulates all of the cells of your body. So you can't go to a gym and ask, how can I stimulate my gallbladder cells? There's no workout for your gallbladder. So it's truly a unique exercise, and the Bellicon is great. You can get them in different sizes. There's I think there's a year warranty on it, and we've had ours for about, 5 years now, 4 years, and it still works like brand new. It uses flexi ropes instead of springs, so it's silent. The legs fold in, and it feels like you're really just jumping on air, and I can't recommend it enough. So if you guys are interested in the sauna or the rebounder, you can check out the show page here, extremehealthradio.com/541. It's fascinating too when you're talking about the communication, because that's sort of like an unspoken communication or dynamic between the cells, because you're saying that the cells themselves could be more energized, but then there's something else in terms of a relationship between one cell to another. It's not really measurable. No one really knows, but it's interesting that this affects, that sort of invisible process.
If we look at quantum field theory, quantum mechanics, it becomes to where you can know nothing about individual parts, but everything about the system. Meaning, quantum entanglements are what kind of, if you look at quantum systems and solid state quantum systems, it's like you see this like global cohesion, but a local freedom. Meaning. Mm-hmm. There's like this spontaneity at the quantum level. There's this uncertainty, right?
Right.
And you can look at that. I like one of my mentors, Dr. Finkelstein, was one of the world-renowned leaders who recently passed. But he was my mentor in quantum physics, and I loved how he used the word spontaneity instead of uncertainty, because he would always say one of the things, and he didn't really buy in, even though he didn't buy into the whole consciousness creates the reality. But I never really agreed with him, because I think that the consciousness is there, and he didn't think it was. But what he always said, regardless of that, he said, the one thing that's undeniable about quantum physics is this beautiful holism, this interconnectedness of all things, and this spontaneity. And the two, they sound kind of conflicting, right? When you have the whole body connected, but you can have a global cohesion where everything is interconnected, but yet there's like a freedom for each little cell to dance and do its own little dance, right? Mm-hmm. Mae Wan Ho is another great person. Her book, The Rainbow and the Worm, is so good. I've read it like 3 or 4 times. And she uses the word quantum jazz because it's sort of like a jazz ensemble where every instrument's kind of playing its own little unique signature, but they're all connected, but in the overall music, right? So that's the body, and that's where heart rate variability comes in, because you would think that some people mistakenly think that you want a very steady heart rate. Okay, well, that's like the old-fashioned pacemakers, like 1 beat a second. That's not good at all. That's like no variation. That's actually the opposite of health. You want a variability. You want the variability to be, even to vary upwards to 15 seconds, within a minute sometimes of between the lowest interval, or not 15 seconds. That's 15 beats. 15 beats a minute. Meaning, let's say you go up to 65 beats a minute, then down to 55, and then you can you can kind of measure this with just a simple heart rate monitor. It's very easy to measure heart rate variability. You just measure the intervals between consecutive heartbeats, and then you make a histogram, and the spread of that histogram, like like a normal curve, the more spread out it is, the better the variability. And the old-fashioned pacemaker would be like just one spike at, say, 60 beats a minute with no curve at all, no spread at all, right? And so the heart rate variability goes hand in hand with this global, this interconnectedness, and because the heart is the main orchestrator, and it communicates in many ways. I mean, through electrical impulses, through pressure waves. Well, this is something that's being discovered recently, that the heart beats. It's almost like it's speaking its own language, and you can't speak a very diverse language with a very limited, like one beat, right? You have to have a very complex wave, a very complex. So what looks like variability, there's an order in the chaos, and we could do a whole talk on just heart rate variability. But
I know.
But the whole point is that low intensity PMF is working with the body. It's not trying to hit the body over the head with a sledgehammer and say, here you go, body, take this frequency, right? It's more like just a gentle nudge, like when you push someone on a swing. If you push in resonance with the swing, or in frequency, in step with the swing, just a little tiny push is all that's needed to keep the swing going. If you get it right at the right time, okay, that's resonance, right, where you're just pushing at the right moment, the right frequency. Where if you try to just run up to the person while the swing is coming back, I mean, you could push it back out again, but that's very forceful, and you could probably hurt yourself.
Right.
And it would require a really hard push. I mean, to get it to go back again.
Yeah, it's so fascinating. So, can you describe a little bit about the inventor of the IMRS and how it all got started with him and the mat?
Well, the original inventor was the Cellular one. Dr. Fisher was was the godfather of full body mat PMF systems.
Okay.
And that first became the QRS, and then the MRS, the Vita Life MRS 2000, then broke away with that. They did a little different frequencies, and one of my favorite books is by Dr. Christian Tui, who worked with at the time it was Vita Life MRS 2000. And I refer to that book all the time because we still use the same exact frequencies, same intensities that were used back then.
What's the name of that book?
And there's hundreds. Yeah, I'll send you. I mean, I'll definitely send you a digital copy of it. But it's out of print now.
Oh, okay.
It's the practice of magnetic field therapy, and you can sometimes find it on Amazon. I've got 2 copies right now.
Okay.
But you have to pay over $100 if you can find it.
Oh wow.
But I use it all the time because it's got hundreds of clinical case studies in a German clinical setting with the MRS 2000. In fact, that was one of the first things that really sold me on the MRS 2000, which is now the IMRS, was that it had all that history and research and case studies in a clinical setting. And you could just see, documented clinical testimonials, everything from cancer, and I mean, it's all with this specific unit. And it just goes to show you, again, just further proof why more is not necessary. And in fact, I mean, again, it's just my opinion. I mean, I know that people that work with high intensity have their opinion, but I do think that the low intensity actually heals the body faster. And, Dr. Goodwin in the NASA study from 2001 to 2004, which is still on the NASA website, even though some people claim that, there's no NASA study. I'm like, well, you can go to the NASA website and you can look and see it and you can read it yourself. It's right there. And they found that a low frequency, 10 hertz, low intensity, about 10 Gauss, which is, 0.1 microtesla. I mean, 10 microtesla, 0.1 Gauss, that's a very low intensity. And they were getting the best results in a 3-dimensional cultures for stimulating healing and regeneration and DNA upregulating, downregulating, because some things you want upregulated, some things you want downregulated, right? So, but the things that you wanted upregulated were getting upregulated in the DNA. So, really, really good research. And again, it was all low intensity, low frequency, rapid rise and fall. The square wave is what they used, but a sawtooth is also rapid rise and fall. The signal Beamer uses it's more of a sinusoidal, but it's very rapid rise and fall at certain points. And so, the research is there for the low intensity, and it just seems to be, I mean, again, when you really understand homeopathy and you understand the way the body works, it makes sense to me. But then again, for me, I'm like you. I'm more into like things you can do every day, gentle approaches to natural healing, making lifestyle choices, and doing things that are in harmony with nature. And that's been always, ever since I heard Victor Schauberger, the quote, comprehend and copy nature.
Right.
It's always been kind of a motto of mine to kind of judge whether a device is something I want to use every day myself.
Right. Well, one thing that we didn't really discuss is when we first got this mat, you wanted me to use our what's the name of that meter? Tri-field meter.
No, the tri-field meter, yeah.
Yeah, and one of the issues that people have been saying is that there's not enough intensity, or it doesn't come off the mat, or it comes off the mat like maybe a couple inches. It doesn't penetrate all the way through the body. This type of thing. And when I measured the frequency coming off the mat with the tri-field, I could go up about 3 feet, and that was pretty. Oh yeah, no, and I've done so many demonstrations with this, and it's just unfortunate. It's just very bad misinformation by people trying to sell you a device. And it's just not true. I mean, it's actually easily proven false, as you've seen. Remember, I told you that before. As soon as you get your mat, I want you to do those 2 experiments because you can easily prove that it's false. And the other thing that I think able to do as well is do that through, because I think I'm just guessing here at if I were a high intensity mat kind of seller, I would say, well, you can put the tri-field above the mat, but once you lay on it, it's not going through the body. But what I was able to do is still get those same readings, on top of someone who is also on top of the mat. So.
Oh yeah, no. Here's the thing about the human body: magnetic fields do not interact. I mean, they do interact in a subtle way, but as far as the magnetic field going through, it's sort of like a wind going across a grassy field. Okay, the wind just blows unobstructed, but this is why I love this analogy. It's not that it doesn't have an effect, because you can look at all the blades of grass and they're all waving, right? So magnetic fields, this is one of the things about magnetic field therapy that really makes it better than electric field therapy, photon therapies like lasers, LEDs, and electric current therapies, is because all of the others have an attenuation or a resistance. In the case of lasers and LEDs, it just only goes in a certain level before light just gets blocked. With electric currents, there's resistance, and with electric fields, there's dielectrics that will make the fields, different tissues have different constants or different resistances, and the field just doesn't penetrate as deep. Well, with magnetic fields, and this is a fact of physics, anything that's not a conductor, meaning anything that's not metal or a semiconductor, which the body more or less is. The body is not really a conductor. We don't have that much metal in our body as far as metal that will obstruct magnetic fields. But the field will literally, if you measure it carefully, it'll be the same reading with you off the mat at a certain level as with you on the mat. It won't change at all. So the beauty of that is magnetic field therapy is the deepest penetrating of all forms of energy medicine, which means that it can give you the deepest level of healing.
It's almost like
out of all forms of energy medicine, and high intensity included there. I mean, high intensity is also going to penetrate all the way through you.
Right.
But the point is that low intensity systems, and I on the video I did that video that you've seen on kind of a rebuttal to these high intensity claims. I did a demonstration in real time, and anybody that has either a tri-field meter or any other magnetic field detector can see that the fields, even on the lowest setting, I can get the needle to bob. On the tri-field meter has a measurement for magnetic fields. So you flip it to that reading, and I can get the needle to bob 3 or 4 feet above the mat, even on the lowest setting.
Yeah, that's at like a 25, right? Something like that.
It won't bob as much as say the level 400, but you only need frequency resonance. I was telling you before that if you could see all the electromagnetic signals around in the air and the atmosphere, it would be such a thick smog that you could hardly see in front of 2 feet in front of you. But because we can only see visible light, we're not seeing all those radio frequencies, microwave frequencies, cell phone frequencies, satellite frequencies, radar, sonar, heart project. We've got some really weird frequencies running through the air, but yet. Think about a radio tuner. A radio tuner can pluck out of all those myriad signals, just one song, just one radio station. Like if you're in New York City, there's probably hundreds of radio stations. But if you tune right into the right frequency, you can pick it up. So the analogy here is you do need a strong enough transmission, because if you kind of drive out of that town, you won't pick up the signal anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But as we just talked about, because the signal goes 2-3 feet above the mat, easily detectable above you, you're getting more than enough transmission to get the frequencies to the cells. And again, that's the key, frequency resonance, just like it is with tuning into your radio station.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you need a certain amount of amplitude. This is where I will agree with the high-intensity people. Yes, you need a certain amount of amplitude to get through the body, meaning you could go too low. You know, you could go down to, say, 0.0001 microtesla, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then you get your tri-field meter out, and you won't really see anything. So, okay, that's too low. But the IMRS and the Beamer and the QRS, they're easily measurable, 3-4 feet above the mat even.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so the point is that there's more than enough transmission that's easily proven. You know, it's sort of, and the other thing that I just quickly mentioned is the laying on the grass myth.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that high-intensity companies always say. It's like, oh, you know, low intensity is just a placebo effect. It's the same as just laying on the grass. Well, again, get your tri-field meter, put it over the IMRS mat. You'll see the needle bobbing very strongly. Then take that tri-field meter out to the grass. The needle won't bob at all. And if it does, you might have some underground, you know, power lines or something going on. But most people that will do that experiment the needle will just not be bobbing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because the 70 or the 33 to 66 or 70 microtesla magnetic field, depending what latitude that you live at, the Earth's magnetic field is strongest at the poles and weakest at the equator.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a static field. That's not a changing magnetic field. So you're comparing apples to oranges. It's not even the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I put together that video that kind of went through all those myths that are brought up.
You know what's cool is, you know, going back a little bit to what you're talking about in terms of the differences between magnetic therapy and, you know, laser therapy or photon therapy, as you called it, or electrical frequencies, things like that. What's cool is that it kind of reminds me of like this PEMF frequencies being kind of like a solvent, right? Like a DMSO that people might use to drive in something like magnesium on the skin. It just it's like a energetic solvent kind of, isn't it? Oh yeah, that's a very good analogy, because we always find that whatever supplements people are taking, they get enhanced absorption. The one time that this does not come in handy, we had one customer that was taking Coumadin, which is a blood thinner. Mm-hmm. Again, this is an unnatural drug, so this wouldn't apply to herbs. But they were finding that their clot, they were bleeding more easily. Because why? Because the PMF doubles the absorption, just roughly. Not exactly. I mean, it might vary from person to person and depending on a lot of variables, but it definitely enhances the absorption of whatever food, whatever supplements, whatever water you're drinking, whatever, of course, the air you're breathing. It, like you said, like a solvent, it helps to drive all those nutrients into the cells, and like a solvent, it'll help to take out the toxins as well. It helps to drive out the toxins more effectively. You know, it's really cool what you were saying about also oxygenation too, because I've been thinking recently about how to get more oxygen in, and there's lots of different nutritional ways to do that with oils and things and things like that. But it's really cool that it helps to do increase oxygenation inside of the cell. That's really and it starts all the way at the alveoli. I mean, when you breathe in oxygen, PEMF will help the oxygen to bind to the hemoglobin at the alveoli, those little pouches that are right at the lungs. Mm-hmm. Because whatever you breathe in, it's a direct blood injection. This is why I tell people it's like, when you take a shower with chlorine, it's worse than drinking it in your tap water, because it's a direct blood injection into your lungs. I know, right? Because the blood comes right up to the alveoli. So the oxygen comes in, PEMF enhances the absorption, because the hemoglobin is able to bind to 4 molecules of oxygen. And PEMF actually enhances some of the magnetic properties of oxygen to bind to hemoglobin. It enhances the circulation, microcirculation, diffusion from the capillaries, into the cells, and then helps also to drive the oxygen and get
get the whole Krebs cycle working. Because as a Nobel Prize winner once said, life is but a flow of electrons, like a cascade of energy. It's like a waterfall of energy flowing down, just like how, waterfalls can generate power if you have the right. So this energetic cascade of, of course, oxygen is the primary oxidizer. It's what pulls the electrons from glucose through the Krebs cycle to create ATP. So it's the final electron acceptor. And then having really good food and supplements helps to give you those electrons. The glucose has the electrons that are flow. And of course, the glucose comes from plants and photosynthesis, right, which are creating the glucose from the sunlight. So ultimately, the energy is really coming from the sun into our food and flowing down the Krebs cycle, and oxygen is needed as the final acceptor to create energy in the body. And not only does oxygen create energy, up to 38 molecules of ATP per cycle, if you're healthy. That's ideal. If you're not healthy, you're probably down more towards the lactic acid fermentation, which is 4 molecules. But it's not an all or nothing. I think I was reading there is some test they have now where you can see relatively how many molecules of ATP your cells are generating per, on average per, molecule of glucose. There's some way to test it, I think.
A test for that. That's interesting.
Yeah, I'm going to look that up, but even if but certainly a lot of leading health practitioners recognize, including, Jerry Tennant, he talks about a lot of this in his book too. I like how he uses like 38 miles per gallon versus 4 miles per gallon. I mean,
yeah, he's got a great analogy.
When you really have that Krebs cycle optimized and you're cranking out all those ATP, you could literally have 9 times more energy than someone who's on the lactic acid fermentation cycle. And those people are also producing a lot of excess acid. So they acidify their body, which then creates a breeding ground for pathogens. And usually they're low oxygen, which is one of the reasons they don't produce enough ATP is their oxygen's low. So it's like this whole downward spiral where you're not getting the oxygen to your cells, you're not producing ATP as optimally as you could be, and it creates more acid, which then just creates this downward spiral. So PEMF is one of the ways to kind of reboot the body, to get the oxygen into the cells, to get the energy rebooted, and to turn that vicious cycle around so that you can more alkalize and oxygenate and energize the body and get rid of all the toxicity.
Yeah, one final thing I was going to ask you about in terms of this. What is your research showing you with regards to PEMF, the cell membrane, and heavy metals and things?
Well, as far as heavy metals, I mean, it'll, through electrophoresis and other mechanisms PEMF can enhance, it'll help the body to get rid of any toxins, any pesticides, herbicides, heavy metals, whatever. Of course, it does help in conjunction with I always tell people, make sure you get really low TDS, clean water if you're detoxifying. Adding infrared sauna sessions every couple, like 3 times a week for half an hour. So there's other things that can help with PEMF, but even PEMF by itself will help enhance the body to get rid of heavy metals, toxins, pretty much. I mean, if you look at like water and air, I mean, there's just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of known toxins that, they can't even, standard water test for maybe 100 things. But,
I know.
But I've read some places there's thousands of different toxins in the water now because the chlorine and the fluoride in water are so reactive. They combine with these organic compounds to make these Franken molecules of other toxins. It's like they're creating more toxins, but
yeah, it's nuts.
So all of that, PEMF really helps the body to remove all that, including heavy metals. And, heavy metals are a biggie because sometimes heavy metals become like a short circuit in your energy grid, and like toxins and bacteria will accumulate around those heavy metal deposits. And, of course, they're toxic in and of themselves, on the top of that.
Right. I wonder if there's some sort of charge that they put off in the body that corresponds to the
Yeah, and then there's, the energetic signatures are unhealthy. Again, that's another thing about frequency resonance. And one of the reasons those cells can all communicate so well is that, this idea that these pulsed magnetic fields, and in biophotons, that the cells communicate with, it's all based on frequency resonance. It's not, yes, you need a certain amount of intensity, but some of these biophotons are very, very weak intensities, but the frequency resonance is there, and the cells can communicate as long as that frequency resonance is there. And heavy metals will kind of add like static or add like interference with the body's energy grid and holographic energy blueprint. So
super important.
Yes, we have to. It's tough, the world we live in. We have to take a lot of precautions to drink the best water, to eat the best organic whole foods, to try to. Hopefully, you can live in nature where you can breathe clean air. Reduce your electrosmog. And in my book, I had a whole chapter on steps to do that. But all those things, are very, very important. And if you do, of course, you can do other herbs and things that help with chelating those heavy metals. And the PEMF will enhance the action of all those herbs and supplements. That's one of the beautiful things of PEMF is it makes everything else work better. So everything else that you're doing, PEMF will, like you said, like a solvent. I like that analogy. It just makes it all work better.
Yeah, and I like your ideas about doing an 8-minute session 4 times a day. That sounds really interesting to me because sometimes lately I've been doing it like I haven't been able to do it in a day, so I might lay on it for 24 minutes before bed. But I like spreading it out like that. That might be kind of a cool thing to play with. Yeah,
no, see, when I say more is not better to people, it's like sometimes I mean more duration. You don't need, both time and mainly it's intensity, but it's like when you got your batteries in the charger and the green light is on. You can keep the batteries in the charger, but when the green light is on, they're charged. So you don't. But the one little exception to this is before bedtime, we recommend level 10 for 16 minutes before bed for people with insomnia, because sometimes people that have insomnia, they need that extra time to sort of resonate or entrain their brain waves to that lower and slower delta theta frequency. Spending extra time, it's not so much for charging the cells in that sense, because the cells can be charged, say, in 8 minutes, but it's for frequency resonance to slow down their brains so they can sleep better. And better sleep was the first thing I noticed when I first used it back in 2007. And I would say after pain relief, it's our number 2 most common feedback, along with more energy. People always report they feel more energy. So before bed, you could still do 16 minutes.
Okay.
Because if you have trouble sleeping, but if you don't have trouble sleeping, 8 minutes should be fine.
So, Brian, I wanted to ask you really quickly. I have a couple other devices here. I've got a rebounder and a sauna that I do, and the IMRS here. And so all of these things are working on different actions in the body, the rebounder, the sauna, and the IMRS. Knowing how the IMRS works, what would be a good order to do those things, do you think?
I would, there's no really wrong answer there, but it just makes sense to me to do like rebounding and IMRS before the sauna, because then the sauna can because you get everything moving and the circulation going and both lymphatic and circulatory, because, the lymphatic system is kind of the body's sort of sewage system of sorts where it helps so people that have sluggish lymph, all those toxins, they have nowhere to go. They really need to, and their immune system gets all caught up too. So the rebounding, or, you could do vibration therapy. And by the way, with vibration therapy, I've come full circle there, and there's a device I really like that uses very gentle vibrations. And, you can get that with the rebounder too. You don't need to jump high in the air on the rebounder. Just that up and down motion is
just
enough.
A little bit, right.
But it just kind of makes intuitive sense to me to do the sauna maybe, at the end of all that, because everything is kind of moving, and then the sauna can kind of really be the final, act there to get the toxins out.
I like that. I was doing it in the reverse order, but it makes sense if you're jumping up on the rebounder and getting all that lymphatic system fluid moving, and then you get on the IMRS mat. And then do the sauna after that. That sounds like it might. I've never done it in that order, but that sounds like it might work really well.
Yeah, I don't think there's any wrong answer there. And the thing with the sauna, I don't necessarily think you need to do a sauna every day, but I've read. Everybody has their own different theory about it, but 3 times a week for a half an hour. In the world we live in, I think it's a really important tool to have, and there really is to me, and you really hit upon the things that I've come full circle, and the $500,000 of things that I've tried and experimented with, the only things I'm really using now are PEMF, vibration therapy, or the rebounder vibration therapy, because it's a mechanical vibration.
Mm-hmm.
PEMF is an electromagnetic vibration. And then the sauna is more of a thermal effect to help with detox.
Mm-hmm.
So one doesn't take the place of the other. They really are. And, if you had something infectious, yes, you could add like ozone, like ozone type of therapies seem to be helpful but
Right.
Ozone does, there's different schools of thought on that as well, because it is, in certain levels, it's not healthy for the lungs, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But certainly, a lot of natural healing practitioners get a lot of success, with encephalitis and different ways of using ozone to help with detox.
It's pretty cool, isn't it? All the different, mechanisms and actions of the body that we can attack and sort of utilize with different protocols that we can do every day. It's pretty cool to have all these options these days, isn't it? It's awesome.
Yeah. And I'm, as far as I tell people, as far as, of all the things that are out there, the things I would look at primarily would be a low-intensity, low-frequency PMF device, but don't pinch pennies. There are some cheap ones, and I've looked at them, and they really just use those repeating waves, and the body will acclimate very quickly to them. Mm-hmm. And I've found that, like the QRS Beamer, the good low-intensity, low-frequency German, like European systems, you're typically having to pay at least around, $2,500 to $3,000 at minimum.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the really cheaper ones, I not that I want people to have to pay more, it's just I want people to get results. And I've really tested out some of the cheaper handheld local ones, and I really think you need that full body mat. You need a full body mat device that really saturates the whole body and that uses kind of a more complex, proven waveform. And, the three companies, the IMRS is the one that I like the best, but, there's, the Beamer is also very good.
Mm-hmm.
But, they all have a very complex waveform and they all have a lot of a rich history of a lot of research and a lot of proven, again, just look on YouTube, the testimonials, you just see so many more testimonials. I know the high-intensity people, say that, oh, yeah, it's just a placebo effect, but then I look, it's like, well, I'm not seeing the kind of testimonies that I'm seeing with Beamer and IMRS with those high-intensity systems, or as many.
Right.
Not that testimonials are everything, but, research is certainly important, but the fact that you can get those kind of results with low frequency, low intensity in a very safe way that you can use every day, to me, is extremely powerful. And we have some great animal testimonies, by the way, and animals don't have a placebo. So some of these high-intensity people that say, oh, low intensity is the same as laying on the grass, it's just a placebo. Well, tell that to the horses and the dogs. We got a cat with cancer that got better. Jessica Daniels' cat had cancer. Abby the dog, we got a really good Abby the dog testimonial where they prevented surgery using, we got some powerful horse testimonials.
Yeah.
And there's you can't say there's a placebo because animals don't have placebo effects.
Right. They don't have that ability. It's interesting. Yeah. PEMF has been used on horses for decades now, hasn't it?
Oh, yeah. Some of the it's absolutely it has. And there's some PMF companies that exclusively focus on horses.
Mm-hmm.
Usually the high-intensity ones, but I still think even for horses, now horses are bigger animals, so you might need a little higher intensity, but it's really not that much more that's needed. As you could see with the full body mat, even 3-4 feet above, if you lay that on, say, the back of a horse or something, it'll still go all the way through the horse.
Wow, that's fascinating. They're all biological creatures, so that would make sense.
Yeah. In different companies, I think the Beamer's got a horse system. IMRS has a horse system, which are basically two big pads. It's really cool. They're like two big sheets that you can put in a stable, and the horse stands between them, and the field, again, goes all the way through and makes it really easy. For that way you don't have to worry about how big or small the horse is, because all they got to do is stand between the two. It's basically like having two really big full body mats on both sides that you can hang up.
That's so fascinating.
So,
thank you.
Definitely PMF is great for animals.
Yeah. Oh, man. Thanks you, Brian, for being on the show today and sharing all of your research and all of that stuff and talking about the low intensity.
Oh, my pleasure. Yeah.
Yeah, really, really awesome. And let me just let people know, if you guys are interested in getting one of these IMRS mats that we've been playing around with, and after the show, what I'll do is I'll talk about my experience and things like that. So if you guys want to stay tuned, go to extremehealthradio.com/541, and we'll put a link on that page. And Brian, I think before the show you were talking about the ability for people to call you up and ask questions or to work with you once they purchase the machine. Is that correct?
Yes. Well, right now I'm currently, pretty much I have set aside a few hours every afternoon, Monday through Saturday, to train and work with people one-on-one using the IMRS, just because I really am passionate about helping people to get results, because it is a big investment. That's another big advantage of working, with the IMRS. You get someone that's really skilled and trained, because I have, a lot of experience using it. Mm. And, some cheaper devices you buy on Amazon, you get zero support afterwards. Right. So, and this is for life. I'm always here to help people to make sure they get results, because it is a big investment. And, I'm spending a good amount of time right now working with people one-on-one, if they decide to purchase a unit. Okay,
awesome. Okay, we'll direct people over to you from this show page, which is extremehealthradio.com/541. Hang on the line there, Bryant, really quickly. I'm just going to close out the show. Just want to say thank you to everyone who has been listening to our show and part of the work that we do here. As you know, this is the 541st show that we've done, so all of our shows are free. You can go back into our archives, and we've talked to hundreds and hundreds of different healthcare practitioners, authors, researchers, scientists, and different types of people, all looking at different aspects of health. So if you guys want to peruse our archives and check out any of our past shows, feel free to do that. If you like the work that we're doing, feel free to share the show with your friends if you think that they might be interested in the IMRS or just any of the kind of work that we're doing or this subject matter. Feel free to pass the show on to your friends. We would really appreciate that. That would help us get the word out and help Bryant's work become more well-known, so that he can help more people as well on his end. So that would be super, super awesome if you guys could do that. We love you. Let us know if we can ever help you, answer any questions. Just let me know. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode. I have to say, I have been absolutely loving this product by Tristan Truscott and Peter Ragnar called Good Morning, Good Evening Qigong. If you want to listen to the interview we did with Tristan, you can go to extremehealthradio.com/127. And Qigong is a great way to de-stress the body. And as you know, there's a huge component to disease caused by stress. And stress is a huge factor in how we live our lives and the amount of energy we have and the amount of vitality we have. And so, Dr. Shade, what do you think about Qigong?
People come to me and they're really sick and they got this blown out neurological system and all this toxicity. And I tell them, you need to do Qigong, Tai Chi. You need to do these things that settle down and restore your neurology, because it puts together all the parts. It puts you back into that state where you can start to detoxify. And so I highly, highly recommend all that.
And what about you, Kit Campbell? What do you think about Qigong? Do you like it as well?
Qigong is amazing. And the reason that I believe it to be amazing is everything here is energy. That is a scientific fact, if there ever is one. So when you're practicing Qigong, you're actually drawing energy into your body. Your intention, whatever your intention is behind any action, will determine the level of energy, type of energy that you absorb into your body. So your intention behind is very important, just like thought. So when you're practicing Qigong, you're actually bringing energy in and you're bringing out the stuff that might be a bit stale. With Tai Chi, it's totally different. The energy runs underneath the skin because it's more of a martial. This is the Chinese understanding, by the way. It's more of a martial art. So Qigong is very, very good for bringing that energy into the body, and just fantastic.
If you're interested in picking up this Qigong course by Tristan Truscott and Peter Ragnar, go to extremehealthradio.com/Qigong. That's QIGONG. And you can learn more about it. There's a great video on that page, and you can learn more about it on that page. And I highly, highly recommend this product. I love it myself, so go ahead and check that out. extremehealthradio.com/Qigong. All right. Well, what did you guys think, Mr. Bryant Myers? Yeah, interesting guy. I like what he says, and it's just so fascinating because it's one of those things where we get caught up, and I mentioned this during the show, I believe. We get caught up in a lot of what's going on with alternative health, and this happens in a lot of other fields as well. Is you get two people that you really like, but they say diametrically opposite things, and their points of view are completely opposite each other. And so, how do you win that stalemate, right? I guess you guys, just got to look into them more as people and see who you resonate with. But, for example, Marcus, whom we love a lot, is, sells the high intensity machines, that are in our store. And I stand behind those. I think they're great. I think that what it really comes down to is, what do you need the PEMF for? What are your goals? What is your current state of health? And so when you factor in all those different variables, then you're going to be able to figure out which machine is going to be right for you. Right now we're using the IMRS, and I really like that thing, man. I don't know what it is. There's something about it. I use it every single day. And like I was asking on the show, what order should I do the rebounder, the sauna, and that? It feels really good, and my back has gotten a lot better. As many of you guys know, I have a debilitating back injury. I've always been a lifelong gym rat, so I've always worked out, but I made a major mistake a couple years ago working out. I was working out in the gym and I got lazy. So I was doing bent over rows with a 45 on each side. So that's 90 plus the bar, which is another 45. So that's 135. I think I had another 10 on each side. So that's 155 pounds. And essentially what you do is you cause your torso, you bend at the hips, kind of like a squat, but you bend, and your torso is supposed to be parallel to the ground, and then the barbell's on the ground, and you keep that position. And what happened was I got really lazy, and instead of starting from the ground position so I could lock my lower back in place, I put the bar on the weight bench, which is a couple feet off the ground, and so I started at a 3/4 position. And on my fourth rep, I said, okay, I'm just going to do 5 reps. I'm not going to do 10 because I felt compromised. And then you know how that is. On the 4th rep, I don't know what it was. It was my mind or something. I don't know what it was. It was really bizarre. But on that 5th rep, my lower back just exploded. And I've never been the same since. And that was about 3 or 4 years ago now. But I'm having a lot of good success with this IMRS that I've been using. And I use it in conjunction with the rapid release machine that we have in our store. You can check that out. That uses vibrational therapy to release trigger points and stuff like that in the back and all over the body, essentially. But it's helping tremendously. And now it's one of those things where I'm really enjoying turning our home into like a little spa. So, we have our rapid release here. We have our little sauna. We have our little rebounder. We have the IMRS machine, our chi machine, all kinds of red light therapy. We've got our Rife machine. So it's kind of fun to turn your home into a place of healing, and so anyway, we've been using this IMRS for I wanted to give it a good amount of time and not really talk about it because I wanted to make sure that it was something I could stand behind. But we've been probably using it for about 2 months now, I'd say, or a month and a half maybe. I'm not sure. But religiously. So we went on a trip to Lake Tahoe, where we didn't use it at all. So that was a week there that we didn't use it. But I noticed a difference for sure. My back got a lot tighter. I'm sleeping better. Gosh, like he said, everyone reports better sleep. I've been sleeping like 9 hours a night, and I never sleep 9 hours a night. I always sleep maybe 8, anywhere from 7 to 8 is what my norm is. And I've been legitimately sleeping for 9 hours every night. And so that's the only thing that's really different, unless it's the weather. Could be the weather. I don't know. I'm not sure, but all I know is that I really like the effects of this mat. And so I wanted to tell you too, let me just make a note of this also in our, as far as the bonuses get, if you want to purchase one of these mats or learn more about it, just go through the link that we have at extremehealthradio.com/541. And we're going to be putting this in our store here pretty soon too, so that we can make this available to everybody and you don't have to listen to the show, to do it. But, I just really, I wanted to give this mat a good amount of time because I've heard, most of the information I've heard about PEMF is from the higher end or higher frequency or higher intensity, I should say, devices. And I wanted to really dive deeper into some experiential knowledge of getting a low frequency device. And I'm really liking it. I really like it a lot. Kate and I use it every single day. One of the things we do with it is we lay on there and we watch documentaries. So last night, it was like 11:30 at night and I hadn't done it all day. And I really wanted to use it before bed. So I used it before bed and last night I slept for 9 hours. It was crazy. Wow. I feel like I'm a 10-year-old kid again. So if you purchase through our link, there's a couple different bonuses that Bryant is going to make available for you. If you go to PEMFbook.com, he's written a whole entire book about the benefits of PEMF therapy, and he'll throw that in for free. So you'll get that free book that he's written. And you'll also have your option of getting a travel bag or a car adapter, which I think the car adapter would be pretty cool. I don't have either of those, but I think a car adapter would be pretty cool because that way you can take the little pad with you, and if you take long road trips or if you drive, half hour to work every day, 5 days a week, that's 5 hours, that's 20 hours of driving a month where you could be, using this IMRS on your lower back or on your stomach or anywhere else. So that would be kind of turn your drive time into a, Jim Rohn used to say, turn your car into a mobile university. But why not turn your car into a mobile university and heal at the same time? So now you can do that. So if you get the car adapter, you could, hook it up and use it while you're driving, which would be really awesome. And then the other thing too, I want to let you guys know, it does come with a 3-year warranty. So, you can always contact, Bryant or the company, if something goes wrong or you don't want it anymore, or I'm not sure what exactly the warranty covers, but it's a 3-year warranty, and there's also financing available as well. So, if you guys want to go through their financing company, you can just pay a certain amount every single month. But one of the best things that I think would be cool is, you're going to be able to work with Bryant. So if you purchase a machine, you're going to be able to, have him as support. So, you can ask questions and talk about protocols and how to use it for you and, length of time, duration, all that kind of stuff. So, it might be something to consider for you there. But then again, I really want to let you guys know, I'm trying to be as real as we possibly can here. Obviously I love all these tools. I use them. I believe in them strongly. I think they're amazing. And I think what they can do is expedite the healing process in dramatic ways. The technology behind all of these things, I think, is great. And I think we're stupid if we don't utilize this. And, I think, to be honest, it would be more, my values are such that I'd rather spend money on a machine like this than get a fancy car. I have a 1998 Toyota Corolla that's a trash can on wheels, basically. It's not a very good car. It's an old car, but, I don't value that. I'd rather buy a blender, or I'd rather buy an IMRS mat, or I'd rather buy a sauna. So on one hand, I do think that it's really important to get, healing tools in your home, turn your home into like a little healing oasis. But I also want to let you know, and just be 100% honest, you don't need any of these tools to heal. Your body can do all the healing itself. I really want to empower you that way, because I don't want anyone listening to the show to think that they need to have certain supplements, or they need to have certain machines or a certain book to heal. The power to heal is within you. And I think it's really important to understand that. And God has given us the ability for our bodies to be self-regulating and self-healing. And all of these tools definitely help. I won't lie about that. They for sure help. But I want to let you guys know, don't think you're any less because you don't have any of these tools. If at the very least, just save up and get one, but don't think that you can't heal unless you have one of these tools. I really want to emphasize that because I don't know, it's just really important for me to be honest and to not think and not to propagate the idea that, you're somehow less if you don't have a rebounder, or somehow less if you don't have a sauna, or your body won't won't heal without these devices. That's so not true. So I think the first step to healing is understanding that we have the innate power to heal within ourselves, regardless of toxicity, of anything. The body's incredibly powerful. Now, if you're happy with your life and you just want to add some extra layers of healing and increase the speed time, then these tools are awesome, and I highly recommend them. And I highly recommend learning more about them too. And maybe change, if you really want them that bad, maybe change your perspective on healing, and instead of buying like a car, you can buy some of this stuff too. But again, I just want you to know more than anything that your body can heal. You don't need an oxygen concentrator. You don't need an IMRS mat, a rebounder, a sauna. You don't need these things. So that's, I just want to be upfront. I want to be clear about that, because I see a lot of people, I for one too, I listen to other shows and, people talk about how great these healing tools are. They are great, but I always feel like, oh man, I'm never going to heal unless I get that thing. And so I just want to make sure you guys don't feel like that. I want to make sure that you cultivate your own inner power, your own inner strength. And these things are just extra tools that you can sort of layer on top of that spiritual work that you're already doing. So I just want to make that clear. So in any event, if you do want one, they will be available in our store soon or at extremehealthradio.com/541. I hope you guys enjoyed that show. Stay tuned for all of our shows coming up in the future. We've got lots more coming down the pipe. I also want to let you guys know too, we are going to be opening a private membership academy that's going to be opening the doors really soon. So at the time of recording, this is August of 2017. So it should be available if you're listening in the future, but we're going to be diving very, very deep with courses and programs on how to take your health to the next level. So if you're currently struggling with any health issues, or if you just want to become the strongest version of yourself, we're going to be offering different courses on every manner of health conditions and health diseases, and body systems and organs and everything for how to really take care of yourself in this current modern age so that we can live till we're 150, 200 years old. First step is believing that we can do that, and have healthy bodies along the way. So that's really what our goal is, to empower all of us to realize that we can heal ourselves. And really that power lies within us. So we're going to be opening the doors very, very soon to the Extreme Health Academy. And if you guys are interested in getting in on that, we are going to be offering massive, massive discounts to the people that get on the newsletter list for that. So I'll put a link to that. This way, if you get on the email list, this is what I would do. Get on the email list. We won't even email until we're ready to open the doors. But I want to make sure that you're on that email list so that you get access to the cheapest price, because the price will gradually, incrementally go up. So the people that get in as a beta group at the very earliest will get the cheapest price, and that price will be forever. So if you were to cancel and come back, you would just pay whatever the current price is per month that it is at that time. But if you stay on, your price will never, ever go up. So I just want to let you guys know that. So if you guys are interested in building a community, making friends, and getting access to some high-level courses to help take your health to the next level, you really want to be a part of this Extreme Health Academy. It's going to be the #1 membership site in the world for alternative health, and we're really excited to be working with the doctors we're working with and to be building this thing behind the scenes for you. Our goal is to change lives. So if that's what you're interested in and you want to join, at least get on the mailing list. That way you can get access to the cheapest price and see if it's something for you. Then I'll put a link to it at extremehealthradio.com/541. On that page, you'll also be able to see our sponsors for today's show, and you can check out all of that too, and that helps support the show. So thanks, guys, for your support on Amazon, for buying through our Amazon link. You guys are amazing. Thank you for those of you that support us on Patreon and on PayPal. You send us a couple dollars a month. It all adds up, and we use it to pay our bills. So we thank you. We cannot thank you enough. So thank you guys for that. We're just so kind. Yeah, I'm just so blessed. So thank you for that. Helps keep the show running. Helps keep our dogs alive with with raw dog food. So we appreciate that a lot, and we love you guys. And let us know if we can ever help. If you have any questions about anything, we're here for you. So let us know, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode.
No material on this blog is intended to suggest that you should not seek professional medical care. Always work with qualified medical professionals, even if you educate yourself in the field of live food, nutrition, and alternative medicine. I'm not a doctor, nor am I offering readers medical advice of any kind. None of the information offered here should be interpreted as a diagnosis of any disease, nor an attempt to treat or prevent any disease or condition. While information in this blog is discussed in the context of numerous conditions, it can be dangerous to take action